Suspicion has swirled since the death of a prominent civil rights attorney in 2010 that she did not kill herself, contrary to an autopsy report. Now, Attorney General Gary King said the death of Mary Hahn was, quote, terribly mishandled, and he said a bunch more, by APD and should not have been ruled a suicide. Also, a video made in 2009 by APD's Criminal Nuisance Abatement Unit has brought more criticism down on the department, with officers accused of unprofessional and unacceptable behavior in that video. This could impact the mayoral race. Challenger Pete Dinelli oversaw that unit at the time the video was made. So joining us to talk about this, one of our line regulars, good to have him back, Rob Nikolewski, the hardworking New Mexico watchdog. From the Associated Press, we have Russell Contreras back with us again. Long time, Tracy Dingman, good to see you again. Board member of the New Mexico In-Depth joins us for the first time this week in that position. And we welcome Alexa Schertzinger, editor of the Santa Fe Reporter, for one more go-around before she moves on to an exciting new opportunity we'll talk about here a little bit. Now, Russell, let me start with you. The news from APD just never seems to be good these days for anybody. We have a bit of a mashup here. We've got three issues going here. Let's cover Gary King first. The political ramifications of him coming out with such strong language and leaving no wiggle room whatsoever to where his position in his office is at on this. What does this do to the political races here? Let's start with Mayor Berry. Any impact here in your view?
Well, you know, just the fact that APD is back in the news is something that Berry has to deal with. With Hahn, my colleague Jerry Clausing wrote a wonderful story about a year and a half ago about this. The case brings up more questions than answers. Right. And I think this, King bringing it up, brings not only that case, but ATB back in the spotlight, especially with the videos. And then the reaction. Yesterday, I asked him, you know, if he's going to appoint a special prosecutor.
Who did you ask? I'm sorry.
Gary King.
Yeah.
And Gary said, I don't have the authority. However, he did say, I'm open to a grand jury. So it seems like this case is not going to go away. And in fact, I think because he says this case is open, that these questions are going to continue. And then APD is going to be on the fire right now. Right now, they're vulnerable because they don't have a police chief. They have an interim chief. And the mayor says that, you know, Mayor Berry says he's not going to name a police chief until after the election. So this is going to go on. This is going to be an election issue. Interesting enough.
You know, let's stay on this election stuff. We've got all these topics today, by the way. They were impactful on the election coming up. This is why the elections are what they are. However, the idea of a new police chief, we have an interim, as Russell just mentioned. He is a veteran of our force. But there is a thought out there that in order to resolve this fully, we're going to have somebody from the outside of this place come in as chief, as is sometimes tradition when you have makeovers for cities. What's your thought on that?
Well, I think that everything does appear to sort of be on hold now because as far as the police chief situation, because I don't think Alan Banks has really said anything that's really differentiated himself from Chief Schultz. So I think, you know, it's almost like there's sort of just a stasis there. Right. And, you know, everybody's kind of wondering, well, what is going to be next?
Rob, Julian Gutierrez, who's done yeoman's work on this as a columnist for the Journal, she made mention, in fact, this week she's done 7 front page columns on the Mary Hahn issue over the years. The way that case was handled, and again, on this cloud of where APD is at, how do they get out from under that investigation? Do they reopen it themselves and settle it themselves? Is that the best way for them to attack this?
Judging from what we've read, it looks like they're not interested in doing that right now. But it is a case that is multi-layered and confusing and brings up a lot of questions, as Russ mentioned. I mean, 26 different respondents at her house at the time of her death. There's some question about the amount of carbon monoxide that was or was not in her body. I mean, this is something that doesn't have a whole lot of easy answers to it.
Alexa, you know, you don't live here in Albuquerque, but there were some commonalities through every police department. Again, once things get bad enough, how does one rectify the situation, especially a mayor? It's a hire by the mayor. Our Chief Schultz held over, but our Mayor Berry has some decisions to make now about a police chief if he in fact gets back in office. What would be your outside sense looking in at this of his chances of success with that?
I would say you want to be proactive, right? You don't want to just let this get bigger and bigger as it seems to be doing. So, you know, as you mentioned, you guys have an election coming up, and I would think he'd want to come out and have a plan for dealing with this and with other problems in the department, you know, as proactively as possible.
How did Gary King come off to you as a candidate? Is he an appreciably different candidate when you saw him make this announcement? Was there something behind it that you sensed that he wanted to open something up here for his electability, so to speak?
Gary King?
Yeah.
For governor?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's got to be a little bit of it. I think
Right.
he is a political animal, like many of our leaders here are. So, you know, and this is also, I think it's significant that he's weighing in here because it's clearly something that people have continued to talk about since
That's
it
right.
happened. And so it is good to have some kind of sense that it's not quite over until we actually get answers.
Part of the, Rob, part of the APD mashup we have this week is the revelation of the 2009 tape of the strike force that shows some pretty amazing footage. You have, you know, perpetrators in handcuffs being posed with the places with drugs. You've got, but interestingly, you've got a quick shot of Pete Dinelli in this video as well. When you saw that, how did it strike you? Was that a fair thing to do to him? What are the
Well,
ramifications?
You take a look at that and you look at it through the political prism because clearly Mayor Berry is going to be get shots taken at him from his opponents, Mr. Hay as well as Mr. Dinelli, about all the problems that the police department has had in recent years. This gives him a little bit of insulation because Pete Dinelli was the head of that nuisance unit. So from that political standpoint, I think it gives him a little bit of cover.
Russell, can the mayor credibly go after Pete Dinelli about his relationships with APD, given his own relationships with APD? Do you see what I mean? Who makes this stick to Pete Dinelli?
Well, it's an attempt to nullify one of Pete Dinelli's biggest criticisms of this mayor. And the mayor is also reinforcing the narrative that, look, a lot of this happened before I came on board. Right. This obviously were people in charge of this department that I've inherited. So he's trying to take that narrative. So it's a shot there, and that'll be a constant reminder throughout this election to say, look, this is something I'm handling. And in fact, I've proposed and have instituted a number of policy changes, and that's going to be his argument.
We've heard that from him, and the counter, of course, is they've been forced on him by some federal folks who are here in town. But then also, Tracy, we've got the idea that, you know, 2009 was a while ago. Pete Dinelli was part of that unit, but he was also part of the Chavez administration that was trying to get the amount of officers on the street way, way up. If we remember that bit with Marty Chavez way back when, seemingly way back when. Can Mayor Berry make a credible case about increasing the amount of officers on the street now as well, with all that's going on around him? How does he actually do this? You know, he wants to have the retirees not retire for another 5 years. That does not seem like a proactive way to long-term get more officers on the streets here.
Right, and I think that video is shot through with police officers.
Right.
You know, it's not just that unit. I mean, it's police officers, and I guess I just looking at that video, just looking into people's eyes and how sort of it seemed how proud they were to be doing these things. It was chilling.
Yeah.
So I think that this video kind of works against, you know, even though it isn't necessarily about police, I think it kind of works against the police, just the same as the, you know, the shootings and everything else that's out there.
You know, Rob, you know, we've raised the bar during the mayor's term on recruits coming into the academy. They say that's part of the reason we've had a drop, but we've had a severe drop in the amount of police here. So what has the mayor got to do to fix this before election time? Can he do anything in less than 50 days?
Well, he did announce that he's got certain incentive plans, giving them raises, going around the legislature, and so that people can stay on after 20 years before they can retire. It's a delicate dance for, I think, for Mayor Berry, because the more you bring this thing up, the more heat you're bringing, you know, to yourself, because there's, you know, all these police officer involved shootings.
Sure.
But at the same time, if you, just as Alexa mentioned, if you play defense and you don't take any kind of proactive stance, then you're going to get hammered as well. And then you got the whole Dinelli thing, the fact that he was with Marty Chavez, and as you mentioned, you know, they brought in more officers then. In the end, it might turn out to be a wash, but I think that Berry probably has more political potential damage to talk about when we talk about the police thing than Dinelli does.
Interesting. Would you guys agree with that? It's tougher for the mayor to do talk about it, Russell, than not talk about it?
Yeah, because it brings up all the other things.
Yeah.
The police shootings and then all the pending Justice Department investigation.
Tracy, same thought?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, absolutely. Alexa, was that something you could, again, you know, we're trying to parse something out at an election here, but it's difficult. Would he be better off not talking about this at all, do you think, as well?
Yeah, no, I don't think so, actually. I think
Yeah.
that, you have to address things like this, and again, as I said,
Or it's going to come to you and you have to do it anyway, right?
Exactly
right. Interesting. We're back in a moment to talk about transparency, state government, and the audit of behavioral health providers.